So, Ben, we've just had our financial year end, which has been great. I think it's fair to say it hasn't been without some challenges for everyone over the last 12 months. But I thought it'd be good just for us to sit down and chat about some of the deals that we've done, and also to identify and chat about any particular market trends that we've seen over that period. So in terms of deals done, are there any in particular that stand out for you over those 12 months? Yes, I think the deal we worked on, the sale of Easel, the engineering firm that operates mainly in the civil nuclear space in the UK, to Connectrix, the Canadian-based acquirer, was an interesting deal. And I think the cross-border challenges you get with a deal of that nature was certainly present. It made it interesting. As you'll remember, there was multiple individuals selling shareholders, which brings with it its own logistical challenges, but it was a really good deal to work on in an interesting space, which I think is ever evolving. So that was a really good deal to work on. And you'll remember Easel were an existing commercial property client, which we were able to then help on this disposal. And that was a really good deal. And I think that sector is pretty active, as is energy. We're seeing a lot in that space as well. Yeah, and there was the Energy Compare transaction as well. That was the sale of Energy Compare to Ison, which was led by our colleagues Jonathan and Charlie in the corporate team. And again, that had a cross-border element and had some interesting challenges to it. But it was another one that we were able to get across the line for the client and showed that upward trend in that area. We've also seen the National Security and Investment Act in action as well. We have, so buyers seem to be taking a particularly keen focus on the National Security and Investment Act, given its recent introduction, but it's no different to what we saw when the new data protection legislation came in back in 2018, with buyers dedicating a certain section of their due diligence piece to it, sometimes supported by warranties and indemnities. And I think the key with the National Security and Investment Act is to identify as early as possible, as between the seller and the buyer, working collaboratively, whether it applies or not. And if it is likely to apply, then seek clearance for the transaction as soon as possible, because I think at best it can impact the completion timetable, but at worst it can actually cause transactions to be set aside. So it is legislation to take seriously, but I think the practical approach to it is to try and identify as early as possible, does it apply, and take steps to mitigate that. And what about market trends? For me, I've seen a lot of management buyouts, but is there anything in particular that you've seen a lot of over the last 12 months? Yeah, so on the topic of management buyouts, we're seeing certain clients move towards employee ownership trusts. And I know as a concept, it's been around for a while, but I think certain clients like EOTs because of the obvious tax benefits, on which we would obviously defer to tax specialists, but they like the idea of keeping the business and the company within the existing employee base. And also the flexibility you have in terms of not selling 100%, so the existing management team and owners can help with that transition. I think what we're seeing with the OTs is they don't work for everybody. They have to be the right fit. They have to be right for the particular client profile. But it's been an interesting trend over recent months, and it'll be very interesting to see where that goes. And you've been involved in some pretty exciting property development joint venture projects. Yeah, so speaking of working with our commercial property team, I think that's a sector that's particularly buoyant, and we've done a lot of work across investments in terms of property developers, property buyers, and our recent work with Monument is probably the best examples in respect of the acquisition of Cathedral Square and Gloucester Shopping Centre. So it's great to see that sector moving forward, and I think that's one to keep an eye on. And in terms of other sectors that you've seen activity in, you've obviously mentioned energy. Are there any others? Healthcare? Yeah, so obviously Jonathan, who I mentioned, our colleague, is got a particular expertise in the care home and healthcare sector, and his long-standing client pathway have been particularly active recently with an MBO. So it's another sector where I think we are seeing some movement. So it's good to see. I mean, for me, I as you know, seen a lot of activity in the software sector over the last 12 months or so. We've got some exciting transactions on at the moment in the gaming sector. And I think that's probably as a consequence of the reputation of the region for good tech businesses. But seen a lot of activity in that sector. So hoping that continue for at least the next 12 months. I think that's it for the day. I also want to just keep this short and sweet, but it's been great to sit down and chat, Ben. So thanks for your time. Likewise.